Hello! Okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of the horror mystery Weapons, directed by Zach Cregger, who also directed the very good Barbarian. I didn't actually catch Barbarian at the cinema. I caught it on Disney Plus, and I was blown away by it. I absolutely loved it. So I've been really looking forward to this movie, as well as liking what I've been seeing from the trailers. From the glimpses that we get from within the trailers, it kind of gave me sort of retro 80s Spielberg and Stephen King. They are the kind of the vibes that I was getting from the trailer. And so yeah, it got me really sort of excited to see what next Zach Cregger was going to bring to us within the horror genre. So the story takes place in the town of Maybrook, Pennsylvania, where 17 children from the same third grade class vanish simultaneously at 2:17 AM, leaving behind only one student, Alex Lilly. As panic grips the community, suspicion falls on their teacher, Justine Gandy, who spirals in despair. Meanwhile, Archer Graff, the father of one of the missing children, launches his own investigation. So, I really dug the approach that Zach Cregger took in telling this story. It's very much like a Tarantino story in the way in which its narrative is constructed, which is non-linear. So you're witnessing the events of this story sort of unfold through the different perspectives of the main characters that we are following within this town. Whether it be Justine, the teacher, or Archer, the father, played by Josh Brolin, you see these events unfold through these different perspectives, and I absolutely loved this aspect of telling the story. It was very smart, it was very well written, it was tight, it was clever, and just the way in which this narrative is constructed by witnessing these events unfold through these different perspectives, which almost have kind of like a different flavour to each one. It's almost like you're kind of watching a movie that, yes, it's horror, it's a horror mystery, but it's got elements of other genres as well. There's a faint current of humour, a dark humour running throughout this movie, and it never once jeopardizes the movie's tone. Whenever the humour sort of peeks its head within the story, it's just at the right moment. It's absolute perfection. Like, it's meticulously planned out in a way where you'll get that little bit of humour that just comes at the right time to sort of give relief, you could say, from a moment of tension or horror. And it's just sort of really kind of planned out in a way where it just sucks you in. It just immerses you into this story. And also it allows, by telling the story in this way, it allows sort of the experience to sort of effectively sort of lay bare what it is they are exploring with the themes within this story, with its main characters, whatever it be, addiction or grief, or, you know, power and control and trauma. It's very effective at exploring these themes by approaching the story in this style, in this sort of non-linear narrative style. And as the movie sort of approaches its third act, all of these sort of fragmented stories, you could say, because, you know, we've witnessed sort of this story unfold up until this point through these different perspectives, they all sort of converge within the third act, and as a result it just sort of sweeps you up. It kind of, well, it did for me anyway, it swallowed me up sort of within sort of that kind of the climax within that third act, and it hit emotionally. Like, I wouldn't say this was incredibly emotionally intense, and that was sort of one of my minor gripes with the movie. I do feel like it kind of, even though it is emotional, like there is a moment within the third act, and it's a bit of a weird moment actually to sort of tear up in, because yeah, I'm not going to say too much because it's a spoiler-free review, but there is a moment where a particular moment kind of reaches its climax, and it gave me goosebumps. I teared up. And a lot of that is just down to sort of where we end up with the story at that point, in how the story has climaxed up until that point. Because they've done such a clever job with its story, and sort of, you know, introducing us to these characters, and sort of getting us to sort of really know these characters, even though they are sort of, you know, we are getting kind of in many ways a brief moment of time with these characters to sort of get to know them. I feel like, you know, it just effectively puts you on this journey with each individual character to a point where right up until the end there is a moment, and yeah, it just swept me up emotionally. It took me on a ride. And a lot of this is aided by the fantastic performances from all of the cast. Josh Brolin is amazing here as this father, you know, who's trying to find his son, and you could feel the pain. There's this one moment, and it's incredibly raw and emotional. And, you know, you could feel the pain, you could feel the suffering that the character's going through. And it's beautifully brought to life through the performance of Josh Brolin. And I thought that was incredibly impressive as well, because, again, you know, the movie is fragmented into these different perspectives. So, you know, they do a fantastic job at kind of introducing you to these characters and sort of revealing enough about these characters for you to really sort of get behind them emotionally. And a lot of that is, you know, it's aided by the writing, but by the performances as well. Julia Garner as Justine, this teacher, she's also incredible. Yeah, a very real, grounded, raw performance. You feel sort of the nightmare that she's going through, and sort of, you know, the frustration, and sort of, and it's through some clever writing and just some really well written moments and certain scenes that again gives you so much insight into this character and the history of this character, without sort of really kind of spoon feeding you all the information. A lot of it's all just brought to life through the very clever writing and the performances. You've also got Alden Ehrenreich as this troubled police officer, and again, he's really good here. You believe in the character, and again, he says so much about his character through how he brings the character to life through the performance, as well as, you know, the clever writing. You've also got Austin Abrams as James, this homeless drug addict and burglar. And he's also really, really good here. Like, they are the sort of the four main characters that we sort of witness this story sort of unfold through, and it all kind of converges within the third act, and we get this sort of climax. But every performance, not just the ones I've already mentioned, everyone gives a solid, grounded, real performance here that allows you to buy in to sort of the horror and sort of the events that unfold within this community. And it's this event, this mysterious, dark event that occurs that kind of really kind of lays bare what an event would do to a community, what such an event would do to sort of a community, and how that community would sort of break down from different perspectives. And I think the movie does that in a very clever way, by also sort of using quite a fantastical element. You know, there was a very kind of dark fantasy, almost kind of folklore approach to its story, and I just felt like that worked really, really well here with what they were exploring with its themes. You know, for example, another way of sort of explaining it, the sort of the mystery aspect within this story, you know, with these children just disappearing in the early hours of the morning, it's that kind of very dark fantasy core of the story that is in many ways, the cancer of the story. It's kind of like the black hole that forms within the community. It's the cancer that forms within the middle of this community that then sort of lays bare kind of what people would do in desperate situations, and sort of the effects of such an event occurring within the community, and sort of kind of exploring what the effects of power and control has and how it corrupts the soul. And I just like how they sort of use these different genres, because it is a little bit of a blend of different genres, and it all comes together here beautifully. You know, it never once tonally derails. I mean, it works. It's an experience that is just very clever at sort of sweeping you up within the moment through many different elements, whatever it be the score and right down to the way the film was shot. Like, there are moments in this film that I just admired in how they shot certain scenes and how they would use the camera in certain scenes, because what they managed to achieve in those moments is, for me anyway, they would just sort of suck me right into that moment to the point where I am emotionally involved. I am sort of emotionally swept up within that particular moment, and it would all be down to sort of how the camera would be used. And that kind of takes me back to the third act that I mentioned earlier on, where there is a certain moment that, yes, I teared up, and it was a moment that gave me goosebumps at the same time, and it was just like, it got the heart racing, and I was like, fuck, come on. It's one of those movies, just like with Bring Her Back from the Philippou brothers that was released recently. Another fantastic horror, by the way. It did the same thing here, and it's all achieved through the writing, the performances, how the story is constructed, but also how it is shot. How the movie is constructed, from a technical perspective. Just the way in which the camera was used within these moments. It just heightened the story, emotionally. It just heightened the emotions within that moment. And again, yes, like I said, I do think sort of one of the movie's weaknesses was maybe sort of the emotional aspect to its characters' journeys. I do feel like it kind of gets a little bit lost within that third act as these different stories converge. And I feel like that maybe lacked the emotional punch that it could have had. At the same time, it still affected me emotionally. So it's a bit of a conflicting one, or a bit of a frustrating one, because I really admired what they were attempting here and what they did achieve here with this story. But when it came to that kind of aspect of and the person that I went to see the film with completely disagreed with me on this, but for me, I just felt like it did kind of lose sight of sort of the characters' journeys within that third act, but it still worked. It still caught me in those moments, and I was immersed. And I gotta talk about the score. I absolutely, again, I admired the score here, because the score, again, does so much to kind of really bring to life what it is they're attempting here with the story, and sort of with its themes and sort of the narrative style. And it's got like this one sound, but it also has different styles, and it just beautifully conveys what each of our different characters are going through, internally, emotionally, mentally. I felt like it was a beautiful score that kind of just heightens the emotions, it heightens the horrors. It's a beautifully eerie, atmospheric score that truly encapsulates and brings to life the moments of emotion, horror, and dread. There are moments of the score within certain scenes that gave me goosebumps. And again, there are aspects to the score that took me back to certain 80s horror movies, like Spielberg or Stephen King. And I just, again, liked how the score kind of reflected how they were telling the story through these different perspectives. Like I said, it's almost like it's got these different kind of tastes or flavours or styles, you could say, but always kind of remains this one sort of sound, this one consistent sound, if that makes any sense. And when it comes to the brutality within this movie, the gore, the violence, this is an 18, but again, it's very clever in how you sort of see, how you witness the moments of violence and brutality. Again, it's elevated and heightened by sort of the sound design and how the camera is used within these moments. There's this one scene in a kitchen, and it's incredibly graphic, but again, it pulls away just at the right moment, and the camera will focus on another character, but you could still hear this certain action or the certain thing happening. and it gets under the skin. Now, that was another thing the movie did a really good job at, was really kind of, even at my age now, where, you know, I do feel like I've become desensitized really to movies, to violence in film, it's still achieved just get under the skin, kind of to be disturbing. Like, it was like, ooh, it was creepy, it was unpleasant to sort of witness or experience, but in a good way, because it's doing exactly what it needed to do in that moment, heightening the horror and sort of really kind of grounding it, because you still have that kind of fantastical element there, but it's very much real, it's very brutal and grounded, and it's all done, it's all aided by sort of what you see and sort of how those moments are edited and sort of how the camera is used in those moments. This is a good example, this film is a good example of how to really kind of use very kind of grotesque graphic scenes and moments in a way that is incredibly clever and effective. Like, you don't need to see everything. At the same time, you kind of are, but it's just done in a way where it kind of engages with the imagination. It's allowing you to kind of, it's kicking, you know, it's kick-starting that imagination, you could say. You know, yes, it's kind of giving you a glimpse at what's happening. Very, very, very similar to Alien. You know, Ridley Scott's Alien is always a good example of sort of engaging with, you know, with the imagination and allowing your imagination to do a lot of the work. And this is something that I felt like Zach Cregger does a wonderful job here at doing. So yeah, the less I say about this film, the better. I probably rambled on for too long, for too much, as I usually do with these reviews, with these spoiler-free reviews. One of the things that kind of makes going to the cinema and watching a film for the first time so magical is not knowing anything about it. And this is one of those experiences, like every film, but, you know, this is definitely one of those experiences where I highly recommend you go in absolutely, you know, blind, you know, because it does put you on a ride in a way that is effective. Yes, I got a couple of minor gripes. I don't think it's, you know, perfect, but it comes damn close. I think it's a very smart movie, and I felt it was very effective in the themes, you know, in bringing to life the themes that they were exploring in a way that, even though I don't think it's intentionally, you know, it's emotionally intense, like Bring Her Back, for example. I felt Bring Her Back was just a little bit more emotionally intense than this, but it still lands an emotional punch. You know, this was an incredibly intense, brutal, disturbing and emotional experience with a dash of dark humour that never compromises the movie's overall tone. It's a psychological mystery fantasy horror story that is told through these different perspectives of different characters within this town, and exploring what such an event with these children going missing would do to certain individuals within this town, putting under the microscope the fractures and flaws within all of us, and it just all accumulates to an incredibly grotesque and satisfying climax that, yes, it's not emotionally intense, not for me anyway, but it still lands an emotional punch. Like, it still got me swept up within the story and within sort of the moment and within its climax, and sort of you kind of feel like you've been there with these characters on this journey. It's a very clever, engaging sort of experience that evokes all the right emotions. It just, again, adds to the immersion of the story. So look, I think I've rambled on quite a bit now, kind of gone off on a few tangents here, but the less I say about this movie, the better. I highly recommend it. You know, like Bring Her Back, this is another one of my favourite horror movies of the year. I really like this movie, really enjoyed it. And so yeah, they're my thoughts on Weapons. And I will be giving Weapons they are are my thoughts on Weapons, but what do you guys think? Have you seen it yet? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Did you disagree with my grade? Let me know below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. Got a few reviews planned, a few videos coming up. You've got Alien Earth that starts tomorrow, it launches tomorrow, and I'm really excited. I've been on quite a journey when it comes to Alien Earth already, and the show hasn't even fucking started yet. But I've done a couple of videos over the last couple of months where, you know, whether it be trailer reactions, and I've had concerns around the show. I have been very much on the fence about it because of how I feel like it could be jeopardizing sort of the power, really, and sort of the kind of the meaning of the Ellen Ripley story. You know, where Ellen Ripley, you know, her one sort of drive and motivation was to always stop the beast, you know, the xenomorph from reaching Earth, and to then sort of get a story, a show that is based before Alien that has the xenomorph on Earth. It kind of like, oh, really? But when it comes to the marketing and what I'm hearing in the interviews, there's obviously been all sort of the early reactions and reviews. Like, I haven't really read anything in detail. I've just kind of looked at sort of the basic reactions on Twitter, on social media, and it's been very positive. And they just dropped another trailer today, and it's a trailer that pays homage to the original Alien trailer, and it is fucking beautiful. I was tempted to do a reaction to it because I just love what they did with that trailer, but it's just, what it did do was it got me incredibly more excited than I already am for this show. And whereas I've been sort of on the fence about the story, you know, where they go in with the story and all of that, right now I am just, give me this fucking show. I am so excited for it. So what I'm going to be doing is I will be doing a review of each episode. I think it's 8 episodes, and I'm going to do a review every week, reviewing each episode. I am looking forward to doing them because, yes, I'm a massive nerd, or a massive fan when it comes to both the Alien and the Predator franchise. So yeah, you've also got Nobody 2 and Together releasing next weekend here in the UK. So they're going to be my next 2 cinema release reviews. Really looking forward to Nobody 2. Well, I'm really looking forward to the both of them. With Together, it looks like we're getting another body horror. With Nobody 2, it just looks like a hell of a lot of fun. So yeah, I've rambled on again. Apologies. I do just want to say another massive thank you to everyone that's connected to the channel recently, whether it be liking, subscribing, commenting. It means the absolute world to me. And just, you know, thank you for wanting to follow me on this journey, because this is a journey, and it has been a journey that has helped me in so many ways. Like, every time someone or one of you interacts with the channel, whatever it be, liking, subscribing, whatever way it is, it's doing so much for me personally that you don't realise. And maybe one day, you know, I will do a video sort of talking about that a little bit more. But yeah, look, that's enough from me for now. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.